Hey everybody, this is Bandor Tyrell again from PBR Materials, and I'm here to talk about how to use Materialize. It's a program available on the internet for free for Windows users. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if there's a Mac version. It looks like there's only a Windows version. It's called Materialize to create your own PBR materials that we can then use in Second Life. This is a really cool program because you can use it. Um, you can take basically a photograph of something, or you can have a seamless texture of something, and you can use this to convert that into a full PBR material. Well, it won't give you the PBR material that you can import directly, but it gives you all of the component material parts to that you can then load into Second Life and create a material. So it's really fascinating because you can take a piece of wood or cloth or whatever material, whatever texture that you have, and convert it directly into the fully fleshed out PBR material with all of the different parts. So you can create the normal, you can create an AO, you can create the metallic and the roughness maps, all within this tool. So, and then how you go about doing that to create it for Second Life is a little complicated. So let's talk a little bit about this. I'll put the information on how to download Materialize, um, and set it up in the comments or the description of this video. I'm not going to go through and show you how to do that. It's very simple. You just go to their website and download it, and then run it. So I don't think you need a video on how to do that. But how to use the tool is very complicated. And so this is from trial and error. This is from me watching some videos and learning how to do things. And so I'm no expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just here to help guide you guys to the same level of misunderstanding that I have. So if you know more about it than I do, let me know. Tell me if I'm doing something wrong, and together we can get to the future. So this is like your little preview panel down here showing you what we're creating. So right now there's nothing in it, and that, I think, yeah, this is, if you hit show full material, this gives you a panel that pops up with some parameters that you can set about uh, the fully the full result here. So just to make sure, let's go ahead and hit clear all texture maps. That gets rid of everything, right? And yes, I am sure. Right, so across the top here, you have the different texture maps that go into creating a PBR material. Second Life doesn't use all of these. So the first one is called a height map. Then we have a height map gives, like it says, it gives height. It's for displacement. It shows you, it's like a normal on steroids. So if you think about normal, a normal is to produce bumpiness on the surface of something. The height map alters the surface to be something three-dimensional. And then, so imagine you have, like this is a, how can I explain this? So yeah, see this panel over here? I'm going to rotate this. So imagine it's like this, and imagine this is made out of rubber, like a trampoline, right? If you want to see the cloth pattern of the material on that trampoline, where you can see the fibers of the cloth and how they interact, maybe the stitching that's on that surface of that, for that you would use a normal map, and it would give you the ability to define, that level of three-dimensionality to it, right? But let's say you wanted to reach underneath here with your fist and push up through this and stretch the material up to make hills or mountains or even the shape of your fist. For that, you would use a height map, and it's going to say, okay, make some large scale changes to the topography of this surface. That's what a height map does. And then if you want very more detailed, minute changes in 3 dimensions on the surface or the skin, that's where the normal map comes in. So just so you understand the difference between a normal map and a height map. Now, today, Second Life doesn't use height maps. So we don't really care about them. but you need to use it to generate the other maps in this tool. That's why we're talking about it. Okay, so where do you begin? Well, you can begin with a height map if you have one. We don't have one, but what I do have are some seamless textures of cloth. And that's what I'm going to use to do this. So okay, I don't know where I was because I got interrupted and it's been about a half hour. So I think we're talking about height maps. So yeah, so that's what a height map is. The next one on the list up here is the diffuse map. And the diffuse map is it's like the color pattern. I don't like using the word texture because texture applies to everything. So it makes it very confusing if we start using this. So yeah, the word texture is used for all of these things. So you put a texture on something. Texture is also like how smooth or rough something is, right? It can be used for that. So texture is probably a biasing word. That's probably not a good word to use for this. So I'll try to avoid it as much as possible. But in the old days of Second Life, texture was all we had. So the only thing you had was a texture. You put a texture on something. You want a seamless texture. So you would put a seamless texture on an object. So that's what a diffuse map is for. Another term for diffuse map that we use with PBR is base color map. So a base color map and your diffuse map are related to each other. They're kind of similar, if not the same thing. So it's if you're doing a wood material, then the diffuse map would be a picture of the wood, a color image of the wood. If you're doing cloth, it would be a color image of the cloth that gets put onto the object so that you can see it. That's what the diffuse map is. Normal map I talked about a few minutes ago. It's for providing the 3D bumpiness on the surface of the skin of an object. It's not for big changes in height. That would use a height map. It's used for more detailed things like the fibers of a cloth or the grain of a wood is what you would use a normal for, generally speaking. If you're going to have a complex material that covers, say, like a science fiction panel where you have keys and buttons and you have screws and you have a display, a frame around the display, and you just want to have one material to do all of that, then the normal would be used for things like the frame around the display for the buttons that you push to make them look like they're 3D to stand out. The screw, the surface of the screw, the inset part of the screw, you could use a normal map to represent all of those things, where the surface itself is just flat, right? And you use the normal map to generate all of that three-dimensionality without having to build mesh for all of that. The next one is called a metallic map, and that is to determine how metal something appears versus how we're using the same terms to describe things. How non-metallic, it determines whether it looks metallic or not. And so, like the box that we have over here right now, it's like a gray or a white box, right? And there's nothing metallic about it. So it would have no metallic. The next one is called smoothness map, which seems to be the inverse of, I haven't played with this enough to figure this out. I haven't actually put it into Second Life and tried it to see what it generates, so I'm not sure. We'll figure this out as we go. It sounds like the inverse of a roughness map. So in Second Life, we went from textures to materials, right? And so when they introduced materials, there were three of them. There was the diffuse map, which is the image, right? And then there was a normal map, which provides some bumpiness. And then the third one was called a specular map. And the specular map is to provide shininess and also to represent to a certain amount of reflectivity. So that's what specular was for. Well, we don't have a specular map here anymore. Instead, what we have is the smoothness map, which is analogous to a specular map in a sense. It's to provide how reflective a surface is. And if you think, I talked about this in one of my other videos, if you think about like, if you're trying to make like a mirror, for example, or a mirrored surface, right? If that surface is really rough, it's not going to be very reflective. So what do you do to make a surface become more reflective is you polish that surface. And when you polish something, what you're doing is you're smoothing it. You're getting rid of the roughness. And the smoother you make it, the more reflective it becomes. And so this is called a smoothness map. So my assumption would be that a high value on this would be smooth and a low value on this would be rough. And that is the inverse of what a roughness map is. So the roughness map is the rougher it becomes, the less reflective it is, and the less rough it is, the more reflective it becomes. So you'll see that when we go in Second Life, when you play with the roughness setting, if you put it to 0, it becomes highly reflective. If you set it to 1, it becomes non-reflective. This sounds like, based on the fact that it's called a smoothness map, that it probably works the other way around. Edge map, we're not going to use those. We don't use them in Second Life. You can use them in other platforms, and you can use them in Substance Painter. And so it's to really define the edges of things. And so, like, if you want to have edge decay, or you want to have edge deformation, or edge, like a rubbing off of the surface on an edge, this will tell you where those edges are. And it's used in a lot of those calculations, which we're not going to deal with at all. So I'm probably not even going to make it because I don't need it. And then the last one on here is called your AO map. And an AO map is used in Second Life today, and we use it for adding shading onto surfaces. So exactly what is AO? AO stands for ambient occlusion, and occlusion is the shading that occurs when two surfaces meet. Ambient is the normal lighting, the ambient lighting of an environment, right? So it's not, you're not putting a direct light on something and casting a shadow. That would be a direct light and a shadow. So we're not talking about that. AO is, if you look at this box, you can see where the box is right now. There's shading that occurs where these two, if you can see my cursor, I'm pointing at this line here. There's a line that goes across where these two surfaces meet. So there would be a gradation of shading that occurs where these two surfaces meet, darker where they meet, getting lighter as you move away. You have it on all of the different surfaces where the two edges or two surfaces meet. There's always going to be a certain gradation of shading, or the opposite of shading, which is highlighting, that occurs, and that's called the ambient occlusion. And we generate a black and white map of that that can be used to then make things appear more realistic. Because originally in Second Life, without the advanced lighting model, things were very flat. And if you just put a texture, like a color texture, solid white or solid blue or solid pink or something like that, onto a surface, it looked very cartoony. And the term for that in art is called flat. It's a flat area of solid color, right? So the colors would look solid. There's no grading. There's no gradient that occurs for shading where the two surfaces would meet. When we introduced advanced lighting model, there's some naturally occurring AO that occurs inside of Second Life, especially if you turn ambient occlusion on. You get a certain degree of naturally occurring AO just from the environmental lighting that occurs. And so it looks better with advanced lighting, but it still seems kind of flat. It's still not quite enough. And so a lot of artists and a lot of creators, builders, want to have a darker or a more enriched AO. So they would actually when they built mesh, they would actually generate an AO for that mesh object. And so it kind of bakes onto the surface of that object what that shading in a natural ambient lighting environment would look like. And that's what the AO map is. So what does that mean in this context? Well, in this context, the AO map is for the naturally occurring ambient occlusion for whatever material we're creating. So if I'm creating a wood grain material, then where there are cracks or gaps or grain of the wood, so you're going to get a certain bumpiness with the normal map, right? But where those edges are, it's also going to produce a certain amount of AO. And this is something kind of new for me. It's not, I never played with an AO map this way with the Blend Fong materials. You might have been able to do that. I think I read somewhere that you could embed it in one of the other, but I'm not sure. I would use Photoshop, and I would manually use the AO in combination with the diffuse map to bake the AO onto the diffuse so that you would see the shading on the diffuse map. So I would take the diffuse map, I would take the AO in Photoshop, I'd put them in two different layers, and I'd put a multiply blend mask on them. And so the dark parts of the AO map would be baked onto the diffuse map, so it would look like there was shadows and shading in there. That's what we would do. And we still do that. And then with Substance Painter, and then generating your diffuse map, it does it for us. It would automatically do that. And then so now with PBR, if you think about what are PBR materials, it's all of these things combined into one material that you would then apply to an object in Second Life, right? And so when you take that material object and you drop it onto your mesh object, it's going to apply the diffuse map, the normal map, the metallic map, the smoothness map, or the roughness map, and the AO map, which I wasn't 100% sure it did that. So I'm not 100% sure it does it now, but someone told me today that it does. And so I'm going to try it and see. What they said was, in Second Life, for the diffuse map, there's one map. For the normal map, there's one map. So you just upload your diffuse map and you use it as the diffuse. You upload your normal and you use it as the normal. But for metallic, roughness, and AO, there's one map. And since these are all grayscale images, this is a grayscale image, this is a grayscale image, this is a grayscale image, what they do is they take different channels. There's in color, there's 3 channels on an image. There's a red image, a channel, a green channel, and a blue channel. And it's the color of the pixels, and what it does is it combines those together to get, like, if you want a specific color, it combines the red, the green, and the blue to create the perception of that color, right? So what they do is they split these 3 different grayscale images into the 3 different channels of that RGB image. And Second Life says, okay, here's the metallic roughness PNG image or whatever it is. I see it's got 3 channels. It's got a red channel, a green channel, a blue channel. I'm going to take what data is in the red channel. I'm going to use that as an AO. I'm going to take the data from the green channel. I'm going to use that as the roughness. And I'm going to take the data from the blue channel, and I'm going to use that as metallic. So when we create the PBR material, we're going to combine that all back together. And so this tool that I'm using right here, Materialize, doesn't do that for us. What Materialize does is it creates an MTZ file, which I can't use. It doesn't do me any good, which combines everything into a material. And then it has separate images for each of these maps. So it creates, and they're all like separate PNGs. So it'll let us do it anyway. So okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the next part of this. So I explained what the different maps are, and so you can think of each one of these as going to be a separate PNG file or separate texture file that we're going to upload into Second Life, and then we're going to manually create the PBR material inside of Second Life. And I'll show you how to do that too. But for now, let's just jump into this tool. So, okay, first thing you want to do is you want to, I'm using a cloth texture, right? So I want to open that cloth texture, and I go to my diffuse map up here, and then this is for paste, this is copy, this is open, this is, I think, save. There's a quick save, preview, edit, and clear. So we're going to do O for open. Then it's going to bring up this browser, and then I'm going to go find my image. So let me go do that. Okay, so I hit the O for open, and then I'm browsing. And then I have this folder full of materials that I bought on Marketplace. And I downloaded them to my computer, and then I'm using them here. So these are called Shades of Gray Winter Fabric. I think I like these a lot. And I've used them in a lot of different things. But it's just a 2D image, so it doesn't come with a normal. It doesn't have a specular. So it's not very 3D, and it does look very flat. If you just use this diffuse image in Second Life, it doesn't look all that good. So we're going to play with it, though. The one I want is called Winter Fabric, and I want to use the lightest one they have, which is this number 8, close to white as they got. So it's going to be gray, but this is the basic one. It's got a really neat knitted pattern to it, I guess. And then just hit select, and it opens it here as the diffuse map, and it puts it in here in our like preview panel, so you can see what it's going to look like. And you can preview this in different ways. So if I click on show full material, I can say preview it. This is a plane. I can look at it as a cube. I can look at it as a cylinder or a sphere. And this is all 3D, so I can do this, and I can move it around. I can right click and drag and look at it from different angles, so you can see what it would look like in use. So that's going to be this. With whatever lighting it's got set up in this tool. So that's what it looks like with just a diffuse map. Now, we can generate these other maps. And to do that, we're going to go first to the height map, because you have to have a height map to get the normal map, which I learned using this tool. So, because you notice the create doesn't exist. So create is here, create is here. There's no create for these two. There's no create for normal. So we have to do the height map first. And so to create a height map, you just hit create. And it shows it to us here. So this is basically what the full version of the material with all of these things combined would look like. The right-hand side over here shows us what the height map looks like. And you can move this slider, and it will adjust how much of that you see. So if I only want to see what my height map looks like, I just move it over here. If I want to see only the full material, I do that. And if I want back in the middle, something like this. Then you have a bunch of parameters here for adjusting this height map. And it allows you to really create the height map the way you want. So you can have as big or as small of changes. And there's different settings here, like you can click displace or details or default. I'm just leaving it on the default right now because I don't really care. And then once you have this the way you want, you click this button down here that says set as height map. So I click that, and now it's here as my height map. So now that I've got a height map, I can create my normal map. And so to create my normal map, you just hit create. And there we have the normal map. And it looks pretty good. Now I can go in and I can adjust this as well. I can smooth it, I can make it crisper, I can adjust specific parameters to make it lift up or push in more. So you have a lot of different options for how to get that. If you're happy with the way you are, and for this purpose I am, we're just going to hit set as normal map. And there we go. Now we have a normal map. Let's go ahead and generate our metallic map. So this is cloth. Cloth shouldn't be metal, right? So I could just leave this blank, but I want to actually have it because I need it to make in Photoshop we're going to use it. So let's go ahead and create one. I can override the parameters too when I create the material, so I don't want it to look metallic, but hey, maybe we're going to use a metallic yarn for our knitting, and we want it to look metallic, so you have the option of playing with it. If you create it, if you don't create it, you can't really do much, so let's go ahead and create it. Same thing as the height map. When you do this, you get this slider. That's what the metallic map would look like. Again, it's a grayscale image. You can then play with it and set a bunch of parameters, but I'm not going to. Next one is the smoothness, which again I think is the inverse of a roughness map. So let's go ahead and hit create. And I don't want my yarn to be really shiny. I don't, but you might. So you can change that too. So the sliders on here allow you to adjust that. So like here it says metal smoothness. I have it set to 0. So if I did that, it would be 1. I put it on 0. I changed this before I did this video. I hope that's the right light. I'm not sure. We're going to play with it and we'll see what happens when I take it into Second Life and we'll know for sure. All right, so, but yeah, same thing as hit set as smoothness and it puts it there. Okay, so now we've got our height map done, which we're not going to use. We have a diffuse map, a normal map, a metallic map, a smoothness map. The edge map, I'm not going to bother creating. Well, I'll create and show you what it is. This is what it looks like. Hey, look, it looks like that. And you can play with it, adjust the contrast on it, but I'm not gonna do the set as because I don't need it. And then the last one over here is the AO map. So I'm gonna click that, and this is the AO that it would generate. It's gonna look like that. I think it looks pretty good. So down in the deep pockets, you're gonna have the bumpiness that's gonna make it look 3D. But this is going to provide some shadows for down inside amongst those threads. There's going to be shading, which is actually looks pretty cool. One of the things on here that you can adjust is the AO power. So the stronger you make this, the darker the darks become, and the lighter the lights become. So it really is a high contrast. I think it affects the lights. It's set to 1 right now. Let's see what happens. So yeah, kind of. Just overall, it just becomes more dark, right? Darker. All right, let's put it back to 1. And then we're going to set as our AO map. Okay, so we've got them set. Okay, and then you can see what it looks like here. Show full material. That's the full material. What it would look like once rendered. I can adjust things here. I can adjust the metallic multiplier and increase that. And I can do it to the smoothness. I don't really know what these are for that. And again, AO power, this increases the intensity of the AO, and you can set the tiling on this. If I wanted to have this be multiple copies of it on a single face, I could, but I'm going to leave it like this. And then this is also where you get to see it on the plane. You can look at it on the cube, which we did before. So looks kind of neat. And then the last thing that I recommend you do before we export this is you click this thing that says tile maps. So you click tile maps. And you can come in here and you can say, let's do some texture tiling on this. So I'm going to tile it down, see? And make it so that the default texture looks like that. Or it looks like this. And I can adjust how they overlap. There's a whole bunch of stuff on this that you can play with to really create some stuff. You can use this to create seamless textures from something that wasn't a seamless texture. You can bring a photograph in here and do this and create a seamless texture. But I'm just going to put it back where it was, which was 1. I hope. Yep. Was it? I got a seam there. I hope that was where it was. And then you can set the size for the output image. So I want it 2048 by 2048, so I can set that here. And then when you're done, you hit this button and it kind of saves it. So it's set maps. So I've set my maps now. I don't know really what that does, but I did this earlier and I didn't hit that button and it didn't generate the actual images for these. So by doing that, it did generate them. So I would say make sure you hit that button. All right, I'm going to save it as a PNG file. And then the rest of this I'm ignoring, and I'm going to hit Save Project. So I created a folder under my pictures directory. I have a folder called cloth. No, I don't want it in there. I want it in this one. What? That's not where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to put it in here. And then I have something called material output. Materialize output. That's where I put it. And there it is. I already saved it, so I'm going to save it again. And select. So it saves it, and then just to make sure, here's the folder, and you can see it has this thing called the wool cloth MTZ. I wish it was a GLB, it's not. And then the individual files. So there's an AO, there is a diffuse, the edge, because I created it before, the height, the metallic, the normal, and the smoothness. Ignore this one for now. I created this one. So that pink one on the end doesn't come out of Materialize. You get everything else. This one didn't come out of it. Now I'm going to show you how to create that one. Okay, so we're going to pop into Photoshop. Okay, so here's Photoshop. And I have this image. All right, so I'm going to delete these and show you from the start. So this is a 24 by 2048 by 2048 image. So you can just create that. Then I'm going to add 3 layers to it. So I have 1, 2, 3. In the first layer, I'm going to put the AO. So I'm going to import and pick my AO. Okay, so my AO is here in layer 1. Now let's go to layer 2. I'm going to import my roughness map, which in this case is my smoothness map. Once I find out if it is the inverse, then I'll know to make sure to do certain things, like I would invert this inside of Materialize, or if I don't invert it in Materialize, I can invert it in Photoshop. But either way, we're going to get the smoothness. Okay, and then the third one is going to be the metallic. So let's import the metallic. And that's this one. No, I don't need this last layer. Okay, so I have my 3 layers. And I don't want to blend them together. I want them as separate layers, but I need to put them on separate channels. And so the simple way to do that is you go to the first one and you right click and pick blending options. And then under the blending options panel, blending mode, you set it to screen. And then you pick the channels that you want. And for the AO, we use the red channel. So turn the other 2 off. And hide that for now. Then on the smoothness, we do the same thing. Set the blending mode to screen. And we set that one to green. And turn off blue. And then the third one, we're going to do the same thing. Blending options. We're going to set that to screen. And we'll use blue. And just let me check my notes and make sure. AO is red, roughness is green, and metallic is blue. Okay. The resulting image is purple, like that. And then we just save it as, we export it as a PNG. So go to export, quick export as PNG, and then put it here and hit save. And that's how that got there. And now we're ready to go to Second Life. So let me see if my internet connection is back so I can get in, because I haven't been able to get in. I'll be right back. All right. So now that we've gone ahead and created the materials, let's go into Second Life and see if we can use it, set it up, and create a material and apply it to something and see what it looks like. Okay, here we are in Second Life. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to my inventory. And I'm going to go to my materials folder, which is up here, and I'm going to create a new material. Let's just call it wool cloth. Okay, and then let's edit it. or open in this case. So here it is, and there's nothing in it. So let's go ahead and upload those images. And I added a bunch more in here while I was paused. So it was the wool cloth diffuse, wool cloth normal, and then the wool cloth metallic roughness that I created. I'm not using an emissive, so we can skip that. It doesn't glow. Okay, so now that they're here, I can start applying them. So the first one is the diffuse, so we'll just drag that into here. Then we'll take the normal and we'll drop it in here. And the metallic roughness will drop in here. And then save it. Okay. And go back up to materials. There it is. Yep, that's correct. Now let's put it on this object. Boom. There it is. Okay, so it did make it quite metallic. So not quite sure what that means with those settings that we had, but let's go ahead and we're going to edit this. And we will take the roughness down to 0. And the metallic down to 0. The sides are going to look weird because it's compressed, right? So let's see, how did that turn out? From here, it doesn't look so bad. Okay, let me scale that. I'm going to do scale. Let's do 4 by 4. And there it is. Yeah, it's got that. I saw that in the Materialize that it had this kind of banding going on. I think if I play around with it, I can get rid of that, but it looks pretty good. Now, I think that could make a pretty cool blanket. Looks kind of, yeah, looks pretty neat. What I want to do though, let's play with the tinting on it. So if I wanted to apply a tint to this, I could just go and edit it. And then edit the material. And under the base color, I could apply a tint. So like pink. Now it's a pink blanket, or a blue blanket, or a green blanket. Or a tan blanket. Yeah, that works. It does have a little bit of a shine to it. I think if I go back to Materialize and play with that some more, we can see what'll happen. I started another one. Let's go back in there. I found out you don't have to do that tile maps. You don't have to do that, and it does save them. So let's try it without doing that, just to see what it does. This is way down here. Oh, a lot of stuff in here. Shades of gray wool, shades of gray winter. This one. Okay. Oops, I put that in the height map. Shades of gray. Winter. There we go. Then create height map, create the normal map, create a metallic map. And we don't want any metallic. Actually, let's not even create a metallic map. Let's just leave that alone. Leave the metallic and smoothness, but we will create the AO. Whoa. That's weird. Why does it look so weird? Let's create these. Oh, sorry. Create these and then I'll clear them. I don't know if that affects the AO or not. Looks like it did. Oh, I had played with these parameters. Is there a way to reset everything back to the defaults? Because it remembers the settings that you changed. So I had put these. I don't know what they should be. Set that to 0. Set that to 1. And then I don't know what pixel depth should be. Or the pixel spread. I have no idea what those should be. So we'll just let's use that. It looks okay. And then I'm going to clear that, and clear that. Now you don't have to go do tile maps. I found it saved everything perfectly fine if I didn't do that. So where am I storing this? Materialize output. Let's call it 2, just to be safe. Okay, and then let's go back to second live. 2. I'm gonna edit. Let's copy it. Well, let's just do a new one. New material. We'll call it wool cloth 2. And then we're going to upload those textures again. Wool cloth 2 AO. Oh yeah, it doesn't have a metallic and a roughness. That's right. So I'm just going to upload that. Oh, I should have uploaded the other 2. Sorry. Build, upload, diffuse, and normal. Okay, so let's put the normal in here. Put the diffuse in there. And then we'll just put the AO in there, metallic roughness. I don't know if that'll work. Let's see what happens. Go back up to the material. And see, I didn't do tile maps and it got rid of that weird pattern. Looks different. I don't know about better, but it looks different. That's the new one. This is the old one. I think this looks better, even though it's shiny. It's more detailed. Something I did in the second one, I lost a little bit of my detail. Anyway, that's it. So now you've seen how to use Materialize to create a material and bring it in and use it. You want to see what it looks like with the, if I just did a texture of that. Let's do none. Okay, so now it's back to blend font. Go upload that texture, upload image. Oh, I should have saved a copy. I'll do it again. Once I get it up there, it's cloth. Shades of gray. There it is. That one. I think that's one. Yeah, so I'll make sure I set the other one to one by one. Okay, so there we go. Now we'll go to materials. We'll do 3 of them. How about that? Okay, why is that not loading? It's just not loading for some reason. SO's being slow, it looks like. Yeah, it's just being slow. Weird. Wow, that looks really weird now. All right, there we go. Let's make sure they're all set to 1 by 1. So you can compare them. All right, so you can tell me which one do you think looks best. This is just the normal texture applied to it. There's no depth to it. There's no character to it. It's just flat, right? This is with the shininess, which I don't like it at all. And here it is. This is the, yeah, this one, I think this one looks best. But that's just me. All right, so that's it. So I'm going to end the video here, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or hit me up in Second Life and ask away. And if you have something specific you want to see me try to do, we can do that. Oh, I did another one. Before I hang up, I did another one. Let's try it. I'm curious to see how it turns out. I did a couple other ones. My internet was down, so I was playing. New material. We'll call it purple. And build upload bulk. It's this stuff. Square quilt diffuse. Metallic, normal, smoothness, and AO. All right. I've used this same material many times in some of my furniture. And sometimes I'll go in and try to generate a normal for it or something. But let's see how this works. So diffuse, normal. Okay. Then we need Photoshop. This is the AO. Oh, I didn't need to upload these. Blending. Red only. And we'll do smoothness. And I do think this is, I think it should be the other way around, but we'll see. I need to play with it more to know for sure. Blending mode. Green. And metallic. Set the blending mode on that one to screen and blue. Okay, and then we're going to save this as square quilt metallic roughness. Upload that. And put it in here. Roughness 1 means no shine. Oh, that's why there's a shine on there. It looks pretty darn good. Look at that. I like it. And let's tile it a little bit. Tile it. Scale. Yeah, see, I did that tile map thing and I didn't have it set up right, and so it made it end here and repeat there, and so I'm getting the skinny one. But other than that thing happening, I really kind of like it. Anyway, okay. So we are done. Anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. So that was a little bit of dorking around with some PBR material stuff using Materialize. I've got a lot to play with on it to figure this stuff out to be better at doing it because I'm not confident at this point. I do think it looks pretty decent, but I think there's a lot of work to be done on it. I'm still a huge fan of doing things in Substance Painter, but with Substance Painter you have to have the materials, right? To begin with. This way you actually get to create some materials from some things that you might not have uh, necessarily had before. So that's kind of cool. I do think that turned out pretty decent. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments and let me know in Second Life. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.